Okay, so you're thinking about maybe checking out Tell Me Lies.
By J.P. Pomeray.
Right, by J.P. Pomeray. But you're not totally sure if it's worth the time.
Well, we are here to do a deep dive into this one for you.
Exactly. We're going to take a look and see if we can help you decide if it's something you want to read.
Yeah, and I mean, right off the bat, looking at the critic's review and all the Goodreads stuff, it's a bit of a mixed bag.
It is. It really is.
Yeah. It could be great. It could be not so great.
Yeah. You get that feeling. So we're going to break it down.
Yeah.
We're going to look at it from all different angles.
All the perspectives.
All the perspectives. And hopefully by the end, you'll have a better sense of whether you want to pick it up or not.
So the critic, Cater Cheek, she did not like this book.
No, she did not.
She called it moderately adequate, which is, I mean, is that even a compliment?
I don't even know what that means. Like, is that good? No.
It doesn't sound good.
It's not good. And she compared the plot to a Disney blockbuster.
Ouch. Okay, so not off to a good start. No.
But I am kind of curious. When she said Disney blockbuster, what do you think she meant by that?
She basically thought that the plot was very predictable.
Okay.
Like, she'd seen it a million times before.
Okay.
You know, the perfect life goes wrong, there's escalating danger, and then the big reveal at the end.
Yeah.
Kind of like The Girl on the Train or Gone Girl, but maybe not done quite as well.
Right.
Like a little bit more of a surface level version of those books.
So you're saying maybe not a very original storyline?
Maybe not.
But you know what? Sometimes that's okay.
Yeah, sometimes you just want something fun and easy to read.
Right. Especially with a thriller. Like, you don't always need...
You don't need to be on the edge of your seat.
Yeah, you're not looking for, like, the great American novel, you know?
Exactly.
You just want to be entertained.
Yeah. So predictability is not always a bad thing.
Right.
But she did also have some issues with the main character, Margot.
Ugh. Ah, yes, Margot. I've seen some things on Goodreads. You know, people have some opinions about her.
Oh, yeah. There are lots of very strong opinions.
Yeah.
So the critic, she called her smug and arrogant and, like, completely devoid of empathy. Now, this is interesting because Margot is a psychologist.
Okay.
So, like, if you think about that, like, her lack of empathy kind of makes her less believable as a therapist.
Yeah, that's true.
It's almost like the author was trying to make her unlikable.
Okay, so now I'm really wondering, is that just bad writing?
Yeah.
Or is there something more to it? You know, like, was the author trying to do something specific there by making us not like this character?
I think that's a really good question, and it's something that comes up a lot in the Goodreads reviews.
Oh, really?
This idea of the unreliable narrator.
Okay, so remind me, what is an unreliable narrator?
Basically, it's when the person who's telling the story might not be giving you the whole truth,
Okay.
or, like, their perception of events could be messed up.
Right.
So you can't totally trust everything that they're telling you.
So we don't necessarily know if we can trust Margot.
Exactly.
That could be really interesting.
Oh, yeah. Especially in a thriller, it makes you question everything.
Yeah. Like, is she being truthful or is she manipulating us?
Yeah. Like, is this all in her head? What's really going on?
Right. Like, is this even happening?
Yeah. And it can be a really effective technique.
I mean, if it's done well.
Yeah, if it's done well.
Yeah.
Think about books like The Silent Patient or The Woman in the Window.
Oh, yeah. Those are good ones.
Those both have unreliable narrators.
And that's part of what makes them so good.
It's like, oh, what's happening?
Right.
You don't know.
So, okay, we've got, maybe the plot's not that original.
Yeah.
We've got this main character, Margot, who is maybe not that likable. And maybe we can't even trust her.
Right.
So, anything else? What else did the critic have to say? Were there any redeeming qualities?
Well, actually, yeah. She did like the audiobook. She said the narrator had like a really charming voice.
Oh, so at least there's that.
Yeah, so if you're into audiobooks, you know, maybe that could be a plus.
That's a good point, because sometimes a good narrator can really save a book.
Yeah.
Make it even better.
For sure.
But it also makes you wonder, if the writing's not great, maybe the audiobook is what makes it good.
Maybe.
Okay. Well, let's dig into some of these Goodreads reviews, because I know you said people had some thoughts about Margot. What were they saying?
Well, yeah. Yeah, a lot of people were saying the same things as the critic about Margot, like that she was unsympathetic and even kind of frustrating to read about.
Oh.
One reviewer even said they ended up rooting for the bad guy.
Oh.
Which, in a thriller, that's kind of a problem, you know?
Yeah, that's not usually a good sign. I guess if the main character is not that likable, you know, you got to root for somebody.
Right.
Did the critic have anything to say about the antagonist? Like, was he at least like a well-written, interesting character?
Unfortunately, no. She actually called him a whiny little bitch.
Oh, wow. Okay. All right, so not a great antagonist either.
No.
She wasn't pulling any punches. But I'm curious, like, what about the people who did like the book?
Yeah.
What did they say? What did they enjoy about it?
Well, some people really enjoyed the fast pace and the twists and turns, even comparing it to Gone Girl,
Okay.
saying it kept them guessing until the very end.
Okay, so it sounds like whether or not you enjoy this book really depends on what you're looking for in a thriller.
For sure.
You know, if you're looking for something like really deep, like literary with complex characters,
Yeah.
this might not be it. But if you want something fast-paced,
So
twisty,
just your sheer entertainment.
yeah, keeps you on the edge of your seat.
Yeah. Then it might be worth checking out.
Yeah. Okay, so we've talked about the plot, or I guess the lack of an original plot,
Right.
the not-so-great characters.
We've got an unreliable narrator.
Right. Maybe you can't even trust what we're reading.
Right.
But you mentioned earlier the critic compared this book to a Disney blockbuster.
Yeah.
And she also mentioned that, Margot's a psychologist.
Yeah.
Was there something more to that comparison?
There's actually another layer to this that we haven't really touched on yet.
Okay.
So remember how she said, don't use the DSMV as a monster manual?
Yeah.
She kind of felt like the author was using psychological diagnosis as a shortcut
Oh,
to create a villain.
interesting.
So basically, like, taking really complex mental health conditions
Yeah.
and boiling them down to these very simple character traits.
Right. So it's not just that the plot is predictable, but it's also how the book deals with mental health.
Exactly.
That could be a problem.
Yeah.
Like she was saying that the author was being insensitive or maybe even exploitative.
Yeah, she specifically mentioned how Margot talks about her patients, like, in this disrespectful way
Oh.
and using their diagnoses almost as, like, labels.
Okay.
So it's like, instead of treating these diagnoses with nuance, the author is using them to make the reader feel uneasy or scared,
Right.
just to add to, like, the suspense factor.
So you may be problematic on a couple of different levels.
Yeah, potentially. But I mean, remember, we are just looking at the critic's perspective here.
Yeah.
So, it's always good to remember that different people are going to have different interpretations. Art is subjective.
Exactly.
It's totally possible that some readers might find that this exploration of psychology, even if it's flawed, adds to the story.
Right.
Like it adds another layer of intrigue or whatever.
It all just depends on you as a reader and what you're looking for.
Exactly.
Okay. So we've talked about the plot, the characters, the writing, even some ethical considerations around mental health.
Yeah, a lot going on.
But you did mention earlier, like, maybe the audiobook actually elevates the whole thing.
Oh, yeah.
Can you talk about that a little bit more?
Yeah. So, like, imagine listening to this story from Margot's perspective.
Yeah.
Hearing those moments of, like, manipulation and deceit in her own voice.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
A good narrator could really bring out those subtle nuances,
Right.
like when she's lying to herself
Yeah.
and to other people.
Oh, I get it. So it's like we're getting a direct line into her thoughts.
Exactly.
And we're hearing those lies that she's telling herself,
Yeah.
maybe without even realizing it.
Yeah, and it could make those, like, tell me lies moments even more powerful.
Right.
It's like you're right there with her,
Yeah.
caught in the web of deception.
So maybe, even though the writing itself isn't great, the audiobook could make it better.
Potentially, yeah.
It could add that extra layer of, like, psychological depth.
Right.
That's really interesting. So we've got a lot to consider here. I'm still not sure if I'm convinced to read it, but I'm definitely, like, more intrigued now. What about you, listener? Are you thinking about checking it out? Or are you moving on to the next thriller on your list? Think about it. We'll be back in a minute to wrap things up and give you our final thoughts. Okay, so we've spent some time with Tell Me Lies.
We've really looked at it from all sides.
Yeah, we kind of, like, took it apart, and now we need to help you decide, should you read it?
Yeah, is this one worth your time?
And it's tough because, it's kind of like, is it a good book or a bad book?
It's hard to say. It's really, it's got those familiar thriller things, but it uses them in a way, I don't know.
Right.
Like, is it predictable or is it fresh?
Yeah, exactly.
And then there's that whole unreliable narrator thing and the psychology part of it.
Right, and some people might find that really interesting, but some people might feel like it's,
Or a little bit too much.
yeah, or just,
Right.
like, not well done.
Right, exactly.
I think that's what makes this deep dive so interesting.
Yeah.
It's not like a clear yes or no.
Yeah, it really depends what you're looking for.
Yeah, it really depends on the reader. Like, what do you like in a thriller?
Right. If you're looking for like really complex characters
Yeah.
and just like a completely mind-blowing, like everything is turned upside down kind of story,
Yeah, yeah.
it's probably not the book for you.
Probably not.
But if you enjoy like a fast-paced plot
Yeah.
and you like that unreliable narrator element,
Mm-hmm.
the twists and
The
turns,
psychology of it all.
yeah, the psychological suspense.
It can be really entertaining.
Yeah, I think it could be a fun read.
And then, of course, we can't forget about the audiobook.
Oh, yeah.
We talked about how a good narrator could really make this story even better.
Elevate it.
Yeah. Bring those lies to life
Right.
in a way that the text maybe doesn't.
Totally.
So that's definitely something to consider.
If you're an audiobook person,
Yeah, maybe that pushes you over the edge.
from maybe to yes.
Exactly, exactly. So it's your call, listener.
Yeah, we've given you all the info.
We've looked at the good, the bad, the maybe even a little bit ugly. You know, we talked about mental health and how that's portrayed,
Right.
all that stuff. So now it's up to you.
You decide.
Yeah, take all that in. You decide if it's for you.
And if you're still not sure, I would definitely recommend checking out some of the Goodreads reviews.
Yeah.
See what other people are saying.
Yeah, because you'll find like people who loved it,
Oh, yeah.
people who hated it.
People in between.
Yeah, so it's like a little preview.
Yeah, like get a sense of what the experience might be like.
Exactly, exactly.
Right.
So even if Tell Me Lies isn't the one for you,
Right.
there are so many other thrillers out there
So many.
just waiting to be discovered.
That's the great thing about thrillers.
Yeah, there's always a new twist, a new mystery, you know.
A new unreliable narrator
She's
waiting
your
around the
favorite.
corner.
So keep reading, keep exploring. You'll find the perfect thriller for you.
And who knows?
What
Maybe
the
we'll
thing
do a
about-
deep dive into one of those next.
Yeah, we're always looking for new books to talk about.
Yeah.
So if you have any suggestions,
Let us know.
hit us up on social media. Tell us what you're reading, what you think of Tell Me Lies, if you decide to check it out.
Yeah, we'd love to hear from you.
And until next time, happy reading, everybody.